Hey, what's going on everyone? In this video, we'll create a level or rank command for our Discord bots. So previously we covered how to create the leveling system itself. So if you don't already have a leveling system, I highly recommend you check that video out, which I'll have linked down below. However, if you already have your own leveling system, this tutorial should be helpful to you as well because the process is literally the same. You just have to change the way you retrieve your data from your database. Now, before I start, in the previous video, inside the level model, I set the starting level of every user to 0. However, if you want this to be 1, you can change it. It's totally fine. Nothing's really gonna break. I'm gonna leave this to 0. Okay, let's start with the command itself. As with all our other commands, to create a new command, I'm going to first create a folder inside commands called economy, and I'll create a file inside of it called level.js. From this file, we're going to export an object. So let's say module.export, and this object will have the name property, which will be level. I'll also set a description, which will be shows your or someone's level. We're also going to add options in case the person running the command wants to get someone else's level instead. So I'm going to add an options property, which will be an array of options. In our case, we're only going to have one option, which is going to be the target user. So let's set the name to target user. I'm going to set the description to the user whose level you want to see. The type is going to be, of course, a mentionable, but to use that type, we're going to have to import something from Discord.js. This is going to be application command option type. So just copy it and set it to type.mentionable. And this is pretty much the basic structure of our command. Now let's head over to the callback function. So let's say callback. This is going to give us access to client and interaction. Now, as always, client and interaction doesn't really have any IntelliSense inside VS Code. So in order to add that, I'm going to import client and interaction from Discord.js. And above the callback function, type /*. And for client, we're going to set this to client from the library as well as interaction from the Discord.js library. Now inside our callback function, if I say client dot, we're going to have a bunch of options which we wouldn't have if we didn't add this. Anyway, inside of this, the first thing that we're going to check is if the command was run in a server. So let's say if not interaction dot in guild. Then we're going to reply to the interaction and say you can only run this command inside a server. And of course, make sure to return after this because we don't want this callback function to run any further. After this, what we're going to do is we're going to defer a reply. So let's say await interaction.defer reply. And because we're using await, we're going to have to put async up here in our function. Now let's go ahead and get this target user, which is going to be an ID because it's a mentionable. So let's say const mentioned user ID. And we're going to set this to interaction.options.get. I'm going to set this to target user because this name has to match the name of the option name. And of course, we want to get the value from this. Now, because this is not required, the value property may not exist. So add optional chaining. After this, we're going to determine the user ID for the person whose rank we have to fetch. In our case, we're going to say const target user ID. Now, if mentioned user ID exists, we can set it to mentioned user ID. However, if it does not exist, we can add the OR operator and the user will be interaction.member.id. Basically, this is saying if mentioned user ID was provided, then that is going to be the target user whose level we're going to get. However, if this does not exist, we're just going to get the level of the person running the command. Now let's get the user object. So let's say const target user object, and I'm going to set this to await interaction.guild.members.fetch, and I'm going to fetch using the target user ID. Now let's go ahead and get the level from our database. To do that, of course, we're going to have to import our level schema. So let's go ahead and do that at the top. I'm going to say const level equals require, and I'm going to go up 2 levels to models, and I'm going to import level. Now inside our code, I'm going to say const fetched level, and this is going to be the level from our database. So let's say await level dot find one, and inside we're going to put a query. In our case, the query is going to be the first of all user ID, which is going to be the target user ID, and the second thing is going to be the guild ID, which is going to be interaction.guild.id. Now let's check if fetched level actually exists. So let's say if not fetched level, then we can edit the deferred reply that we just sent. So let's say interaction.edit reply. Now there are two types of messages that we can send. If we mentioned a person, of course, we want to say that person does not have any levels yet. However, if a person was not mentioned, we also want to say you don't have any levels yet. So in order to do that, let's check if mentioned user ID exists. So let's say mentioned user ID, and we're going to use a ternary operator. So let's put a question mark, which basically says if mentioned user ID exists, then we're going to return something. So in our case, we're going to return a string, and we're going to say target user object dot user dot tag, because we want to add the tag into the message, and we're going to say doesn't have any levels yet. Try again when they chat a little more. So basically, if mentioned user ID exists, then this string is going to be returned into the edit reply function. However, what if mentioned user ID does not exist? That means the person trying to run the command is trying to get their own level. In that case, we can add a colon, and in here we're going to say you don't have any levels yet, chat a little more, and try again. And of course, after we edit the reply, make sure to return so the function doesn't run any further. Now the code below this is only going to run if fetched level exists. So in that case, what we want to do is we want to get the rank of the user. Now, of course, to get the rank of the user, we have to know where they are in the list of users. So let's go ahead and get all the levels. So let's say let all levels, and I'm going to say await level dot find, and we're going to find levels based on the current guild that the person is running the command in. So we're going to say guild ID, and we're going to set it to interaction dot guild dot ID. And because we don't want all the fields, what I'm going to do is I'm going to say dot select, and inside here I'm going to say minus underscore ID. If you guys don't know, MongoDB actually has underscore ID by default, so we're not going to include that. The only thing that we need is the user ID, the level, and the XP. Now, once we have that, what we're going to do is we're going to sort these levels from highest to lowest. So let's say all levels dot sort, and this will allow us to compare them against each other. However, to compare them, we're going to have to do two things. First, we're going to have to check if A's level is the same as B's level, because it is possible that multiple users have the same level. In that case, we have to compare it based on the XP. So let's say if A dot level is exactly equals to B dot level, in that case, we're going to return B dot XP minus A dot XP. So basically, if the levels that we're comparing are the same, then we're going to compare it based on the XP. However, if they're not the same, then we can add the else statement. In here, we're going to compare it based on the level and not the XP. So let's say return b.level minus a.level. Now let's determine the rank based on this sorted array. So let's say let current rank, and we're going to set it to all levels dot find index. So basically, we're going to find the index based on the person's ID. So of course, we're going to get access to each one of the level. And the way we're going to find it, we're going to say level.user ID is exactly equal to the target user ID. And now, of course, because it is an index, we have to add 1 to it because indexes start from 0. Anyway, now we have access to all the details that we need in order to send a rank card. Now, in order to send a rank card, we're going to need a library called CanvaCord. Now, in my personal Discord server, I already have it integrated inside my personal bot. And if you see, the rank card is pretty simple. It has the user avatar, the name, tag, the XP, rank, and the level. It also shows the user presence. So if the person is online, it's going to show a green ring around their avatar. If they're in DND mode, do not disturb, it's going to have a red ring around their profile picture. So it's pretty simple, but I believe you can add a custom background, and you can also change the color of this progress bar to even a gradient. However, we're not going to get into that. If you're interested, I'm going to have the link to the documentation down below. So this right here is the library. To install it, we're going to say npm install CanvaCord. So back in VS Code, I'm just going to say npm install CanvaCord. Once it is installed, we're going to first import it at the top. So let's say const CanvaCord equals require CanvaCord. Now back in our code, we're going to say const rank, and we're going to say new CanvaCord dot rank. This right here is pretty much like building embeds using the embed builder in Discord.js. To set an avatar, we're going to say dot set avatar. and the avatar is going to be target user objects dot user dot display avatar URL, and I'm going to set the size to 256. We can add another method to it called set rank, and this is going to be the current rank that we just got. We're also going to set the level, so let's say dot set level, and we're going to set this to fetched level dot level. We're also going to set the current XP, so let's say set current XP, and this is going to be fetched level dot XP. We're also going to add the required XP, so set required XP, which is the total XP required in order to go to the next level. Now, if you remember, we had a function for that called calculate level XP, so let's import that. So at the top of this file, I'm going to say const calculate level XP equals require, and I'm going to go into my utils folder and import calculate level XP. Now back in our code, inside set required XP, I'm going to use the calculate level XP function, and I'm going to pass in the fetched level dot level. Of course, this will return the total XP required in order to complete the current level. The next thing that we want to add is the status of the user. So let's say dot set status, and this is actually what's going to add the ring around the user's profile picture. But in order to get access to that, go into your index.js file, and inside your intents list, you have to add a new intent. So I'm just going to duplicate this one, and it's going to be guild presences. This is required if you want to know the status of a user. So make sure you add this and save your index.js file. So inside set status, we're going to say target user object dot presence dot status. Now we're also going to set the progress bar. So let's say set progress bar. Now the first argument is going to be the color code. So I have a color code copied, which I'm going to paste right here. And then the second argument is what you are adding to your progress bar. So in your progress bar, you can add a color, which is a solid color, or a gradient. Of course, the choice is yours. In my case, I'm just going to go for the color. The next thing that we need is the username. So let's say dot set username, and we're going to say target user objects dot user dot username. Finally, we need the discriminator. So let's say dot set discriminator and target user object dot user dot discriminator. Now, in order for this rank to be turned into an image, we're going to say const data equals await rank dot build. So basically, Canva code is going to build a rank card using the information that you just provided it. And to turn it into a Discord attachment, we have to import something from Discord.js. So we're going to import attachment builder, and back in our code, we're going to say const attachment, and we're going to say new attachment builder, and then we're going to pass in this data. Now, finally, we're going to edit the reply with this attachment. So let's say interaction.edit reply, and then instead of passing content or anything, we're going to pass in files, and inside the files array, we're going to pass in this attachment. So this is about it. So let's save the file and let's run our bot. So I'm going to use nodemon. However, you can directly use node if you want. Okay, so in the terminal, it says edited command level, and this is because I was testing the level command before. If you guys are using my command handler, it's going to say registered command level. So anyway, let's go to the server and test this out. So I'm going to say /level. Now, of course, it is going to return my own level. However, let's say I want to get my friend's level. So I'm going to say /level in Cypher. Now, because he doesn't have any levels yet, it's going to say in Cypher doesn't have any levels yet. Try again when they chat a little more. So let's say I send a message and then I try /level again. So it did change from 69 to 77. Now, if you guys are having any problems, be sure to join my Discord server. The link to it will be down below. Anyway, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.